just a quick question. Tell me, one of our panelists, if you can hear me, just kind of put your hand up. I just want to make sure. Okay, cool. Because our amazing tech team went suddenly silent. Okay, and I want to make sure that wasn't me. So I just want to say welcome to those of you who are starting to join us in the event today. We're so excited to have you. We're expecting quite a few students, so we may wait a couple minutes before we start. But my name is Tanya Hendricks Cobb, and I am the graduate program manager at the iSchool at UW-Madison. I'll be moderating the panel. I'm going to again wait a few minutes to kind of do any formal introductions, but we're so glad you're here. We're really looking forward to this. And there is a poll that got started that you can answer while you're waiting, just to give the panelists more ideas of where you're zooming in from today. Oh, great. Yeah, Richard made it. Yeah, if you can make him a co-host, that would be great. Thank you, Kevin. If you're just joining us, thank you for being here. Welcome. We're just going to wait a little bit more for some of the crowd to come in, and we will get started officially. Meanwhile, there is a poll that our tech team has put out for you to tell us a little bit more about where you're zooming in from today. Please feel free to fill that out. Our panelists are really interested in knowing more about you. Okay, I see the numbers still climbing. So we'll just wait maybe another minute. And again, to those of you who are just joining us, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're just allowing a little more time for all of the participants to get into the Zoom room, and then we'll get started, probably just in like 1 minute. In the meantime, our amazing tech team has put a poll in the session for you to fill out to tell us a little bit more about where you're zooming in from today so the panelists can learn more about you.
Tanya, do you know
Yeah.
if that the where you're joining from today poll results will display once the poll is ended?
That is a perfect question, Jean. I would love for those to be shown. So again, I'm gonna do a little shout out. So I'm gonna start. Okay, here we go. Poll is showing. Are you seeing that, Jean?
I see the poll, but I see 73 people responded, but I don't see the answers.
Yes,
You're
if you go
not
to
seeing them.
view details, it
View
should pop
details.
up. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
It
What
might
I'm
take you to
s-
another tab, but
yeah. What I'm seeing is the question was, are you currently employed in a GLAM, government library, archive, or museum career? We've got 34% saying yes, 66% saying no. And then there's a where are you joining from today? That's a short answer that I don't see. Um, and then are you most interested in public libraries, archives, academic libraries, museums, special libraries? I'm seeing 71% public libraries. Well, super glad you're here, but so excited to see others of you with other interests because I think this is a great opportunity to learn about ways you can use your skills and your graduate education for a variety of positions. So we've got 5% archives, 16% academic libraries, 5% museums, and then 1% special libraries. Okay, with that, I think we're going to get started because it's 12:04, and I know our panelists probably have other things to do after this. So we're going to start by having you just go around, introduce yourself, provide your title, and kind of a little bit about your job. So about two-ish minutes. There's six of you, so I want to make sure our students get a chance to meet each of you, and then we'll move forward to the next question. So does someone want to volunteer on the panelists, or should I pick someone?
Well, I don't mind jumping in.
Awesome, Jean.
My name is Jean Canosa Albano. I'm the Deputy Director at Springfield City Library, the Springfield that's in Massachusetts. And we are a city of about 156,000 people with a lot of libraries in it, 9 libraries, including our central library. And so I've taken on many different roles in the day, a branch librarian, a teen services librarian, branch manager, and many more. But I love what I do, and I love talking to people who are interested in getting into the profession. Later, I will post in the chat a position I'm recruiting for, and that's something that I spend a lot of time on. And then helping onboard people once they get hired. But I also do a lot of community engagement. And so that might be direct community engagement, or it might be people reach out to me or get referred to me, and then I make connections to other coworkers to see who can help them best. Someone from Girls Inc. of the Valley reached out today wanting to know, could we partner to offer certain types of workshops for girls at your library, girls and teens? That's not my role to do that direct public service anymore, but I know just who to get them to, and I'll make that introduction, and we'll get that going for youth here in Springfield. So I love doing those types of connections. So it's great to be here with all of you.
Thank you, Jane. And yeah, your enthusiasm for making those connections comes through very clearly. All right. So next on my view, I'm gonna say viewfinder, my Zoom screen, I see Sarah. Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everybody. I'm so happy to be here. So I am actually a cataloging librarian at the Library of Congress. I am in the social sciences section of the U.S. Arts, Sciences, and Humanities Division under the Acquisitions and Bibliographic Access Directorate. So I spend most of my day cataloging, which is a little different than some of public librarian roles, but of course, the Library of Congress does have some roles that are adjacent to public librarianship. We have reference librarians, we have reading rooms. So I am really happy to share any information I can about getting in at the Library of Congress. I wanted to mention that I got in through the Librarians in Residence program. That was my first role at the Library of Congress. I was actually in the Preservation Directorate. And in that role, I uh, requested to do a little bit of cataloging training on the side, just because I was interested in it. And they said yes, of course, because it's an amazing program. And after some time in that program, it was a 10-month temporary position after graduating from graduate school. Um, I then served as a contractor at the library for a few months until I got my current position as a cataloging librarian. So I always like to shout out to the Librarians in Residence program whenever I talk to any grad students. I think I can't overstate how grateful I am for that program. It was an amazing experience, and there are multiple different types of placements, including reference and instruction, if you're interested in that. I believe the applications for this year have closed, but if I think for this year it ran from if you graduated from December 1st, 2024 through June 13th of this year, you are eligible to apply. So keep in mind that timeline if you're still in school and you're graduating this year. We'll see how the program goes next year. You know, you can't guarantee anything with the government, but it may be a really good opportunity, especially if you're still in your first year of grad school right now. So, so happy to be here. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Sarah. That's fantastic. And I know my students, so I'm sure many other high school students at other high schools have benefited from that library and resident program. We've had multiple students go on to professional positions there. So I'm sure our participants will be eager to have any links or any contact information you're willing to share, Sarah. Thank you. Next on my screen, Christina Gomez.
Hi, everyone. My name's Christina Gomez. I am at Milwaukee Public Library. I am currently a library services manager of MPL's Business Science, Technology, and Periodicals departments. It's a mouthful. Essentially, I get the great pleasure of overseeing a team of 7 adult services librarians, and we really focus on supporting local businesses, entrepreneurs, job seekers, and adult learners. So, what I love about it is it's a nice mix of all kinds of things, right? We're doing lots of programming, we're doing outreach, community partnerships, we're doing our reference work, and also our collection work. So, kind of think of it as adult services with a bit more specialization on the business entrepreneurship side of things. I've been with Milwaukee Public Library since 2010 and was a business librarian for many years, and then also the adult coordinator or adult programming coordinator for our library system. We have 13 locations here in the city of Milwaukee. So, very excited to be here and answer questions. So, thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Christina. And next I've got Christine.
Hello, everybody. I work at the Berwyn Public Library, and Berwyn is directly west of the city of Chicago. We are a community of about 56,000 people in just about 4 square miles. We're one of the most densely populated areas, or the most in Illinois. And I started here just prior to the pandemic. I was previously a bilingual teacher, and this is my second career. I manage the community engagement department, which means we do the outreach, we do the website, we do social media, and we do community partnerships depending on the community and the needs and the wants. We're trying very hard to listen to what people are interested in doing and providing information. And lately, that's been information about ICE and immigration and tax forms.
Very interesting. I think that's the one thing we're already hearing the range of different responsibilities and roles that people who describe themselves as maybe public or public services librarians have. And so next, we're going to learn about Victoria.
Hi everyone, it's really nice to virtually see all of you guys. My name is Victoria Martinez. I am a librarian 3 for the Chicago Public Libraries, which is in Chicago, Illinois. We are a system of 81 library locations, and we're about to open our new library in June, the Obama Presidential Library. So if you guys are ever in Chicago, I invite you guys to stop by, and also stop by in my location, Chinatown Branch. I am the librarian 3 for the children's department, which means that I am one of the supervising librarians at my branch. My main focus is the children's department, so I do work with our librarian 1 in making sure that we create and coordinate programming for our community members, work with schools, daycares. We do a lot of outreach, especially during the summer, work with our summer reading program. But I also assist my general department, our Children's Services and Family Engagement Department, in providing some expertise in bilingual services, Spanish services. That is done through being a part of our Best of the Best committee, which selects the best books for kids 0 to 13. We just had our Readers Advisory program yesterday, so we were able to just literally talk about books from 9 to 5. So yeah, if you guys are ever interested in learning more about working in the children's department at a public library, learning more a little bit about bilingual services and how we do things here at CPL, feel free to reach out.
Wonderful. Thank you, Victoria. And if you're comfortable doing so, Victoria, I already see in our Q&A, we've got people interested in youth services. So feel free to put your contact information in the chat for participants who may want to go more into detail about that later with you. And next, absolutely, last but not least, Richard, please introduce yourself.
Hey, hello, everyone. Thanks, Tanya, for the invite to participate in this. My name is Richard Kong. I'm the Executive Director of Skokie Public Library in Skokie, Illinois, which is a suburb directly north of the city of Chicago, serving approximately 68,000 people. So as Executive Director, I report directly to our Board of Trustees. So we have a 7-member board, and they're essentially that body is my boss. And so I'm responsible for really like everything in the library in terms of management of the facilities and the staff and the finances and public services and community engagement. Obviously, we have a great team here that I work with, but at the end of the day, the board hires an executive director like myself to be the administrator of the library and can manage the things. So a lot of my work centers on working with the board on policy making or thinking about our tax levy, our budget, that kind of thing, thinking about just kind of long-term strategy. But my day-to-day is just kind of probably what many of the others experience is kind of working with my colleagues to handle all this work and just a lot of conversations, a lot of discussions, and just supporting my colleagues so that they can do their best work. I'm happy to answer any questions that people may have. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks to all of you for introducing yourself. I love already hearing the variety of things you do, and that you'll bring your own kind of your own perspective, right? Because we know public librarianship is not a monolith, right? There's a lot to dive into. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our second question that we've pre-prepared. For those of you who are participating today, we're going to start up with a couple questions that we know get asked a lot by students. But then we will definitely leave some time and open it up to look at the questions you're putting in the Q&A and answer those as best we can as time permits. So hang with us. All right, so let me pull up quickly my second question. Okay, so the next question that we do want all the panelists to answer, we may not have time with some of the future questions, and I may just have one or two of you, but we want all of you because you've got different perspectives and you work at different libraries. The question that gets asked the most by students, what skills and experiences should I obtain to be competitive on the job market? So that is what skills and experiences should I obtain to be competitive on the job market? And let's shake it up a little bit. Jean started us off last time. Is there someone else who'd be willing to start us off? Christine, was that a nod?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, please.
So in my case, for our library, we are always looking for people who speak Spanish or a language other than English. If you can demonstrate the ability to be flexible and not immediately panic under pressure, that's huge. Because at least in my situation, we have our regular users, but we also have people who are in various stages of crises, and knowing where to refer them, helping them access resources and not get too flustered is a great thing to be able to demonstrate. The other battle that we have on a customer service end is helping people access technology, because so much is digital, and if you don't have those skills, you can't apply for a job, you can't apply for public benefits, and all of those things. So understanding and being able to explain things to all kinds of people when it comes to technology, and listening to their questions, asking those, and then asking them what they know, is really important. And in the terms of immigration resources, this library is recognized by the Department of Justice to do some immigration services. And we're working towards getting reps in the staff in the building to be accredited to provide direct consultations for people applying for immigration. And in the community that I work in, that's very important. And at the moment, we have really good board support that's encouraging us to continue with that campaign or initiative.
Fantastic and very concise summary. Thank you so much, Christine. Who else would like to jump in?
I can share a little bit,
Yeah,
Tanya.
great.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention a couple very specific things that I would look for in terms of applicants, trauma-informed practices. So whether that's like formal training through coursework or certification, or the ability to really explain ways that you've kind of worked through a situation using trauma-informed principles. I think that's really critical for public libraries, specifically any sort of public service. Um, I'd also like to call out experience with or ability to speak about the importance of community responsive services. So we may frame this as like community engagement, but if you're going for an interview, for example, taking a really deep dive in the about the community that you're seeking to work for, how would you do that? Are you able to speak to kind of the need that's there, the role the library plays in meeting that need, and then how you would develop program services for those communities. Echo Christine's mention of the digital literacy instruction and having a flexible communication style when it comes to that. Um, Project management skills. That also could be a formalized kind of like training or course, but also hands-on experience with managing, developing a project from inception all the way through assessment and completion. So being able to talk about that is important. And then I like throwing this out there. I really think it'd be valuable for folks to take like a storytelling class or just learn more about storytelling as a skill in addition to an art form. So, in my line of work, I work with a lot of like entrepreneurs, small business owners, and we talk about storytelling as a way to kind of demonstrate value, right, for whatever product or service that they're offering. But it's also really useful when you're like communicating your narrative of like who you are, what like your skills, and how you are the match for this particular job. I think it could be a huge asset at like an interview stage. So think about storytelling and the way that it might be able to help you tell your personal story and, stand out in the job market.
Love that, Christina. I think that is spot on. Absolutely. Who'd like to go next?
I can go next.
Great.
I think they mentioned a lot of great qualities. I think to be a public librarian, you really have to want to be a public librarian. So keeping in mind that you're going to be dealing with people of all kinds, some that require mental health, for you to approach people in different ways. So really wanting to be a part of that community and wanting to serve that community, being able to wear multiple hats. I know that I am a children's librarian, right? But I'm also one of the supervising librarians. I also have to assist our adult patrons, our teen patrons, when my other reference staff are not present. So being able to gather information about other departments and being willing to step in when things happen, because in a public library, you don't not every day is different. Different things happen, and like Christine mentioned, you have to be able to be ready to step in and support your staff, support your patrons. Staying up to date with trends. Now we have AI, so being informed about AI and how that can support, but also provide information on how to properly use AI for our patrons. And kind of backing up of what Christina said, like you guys are in school at the moment, so really taking courses that target the audience that you want to work with. I found those to be very beneficial when I was in school and eventually made that transition as a public librarian because I was really able to focus on the text and in the ways that the different audiences communicate. And also it was providing or getting informed in readers advisory as well. You'll see a lot in public libraries. So if that's something that you feel like you can strengthen a little bit more, take those courses and do your research on how to provide reader advisory skills for different types of audiences as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Victoria. All right. Richard or Jean, who'd like to go next?
I'll just, I think everyone else has covered a lot of the good points. This is a difficult question for me because I mean, it really depends on the job, obviously, you know, and what the job description and job ad is looking for or states what they're looking for. So it could be a number of different things, but I'm just going to get really practical here and just assume that, you know, if you're applying for a job where there are many others who have the bare minimum qualifications, and it's hard to kind of distinguish yourself in that regard. I have found that people who know how to write and communicate and express themselves, whether it's through a cover letter or in person in an interview setting, have a leg up because they're able to express how mature their thinking might be or how kind of sophisticated their thinking might be or what skills they have and applying it to a certain job and kind of helping the interviewer or hiring managers imagine working with you. Like that's really difficult if you can't communicate well and if you can't write well. So that's just a really practical tip, I guess.
Practical, but super important. Yeah, go ahead and jump in, Jean.
It all comes together too. Like I think everything that everyone said all comes together and building on that, being able to express yourself. You want to be able to tell those stories and tell it in a cover letter, tell it in answers to your interview questions. So, you know, not just saying, yes, I ran 3 story times and there were 20 people in each. Well, what's the story? Tell some kind of a story about it. And another way that storytelling impacts that hasn't come up yet is in advocacy, because being able to tell those stories to your funders or to your director or, you know, someone who gets to make a decision, be it financial or whether you can go to a conference or run a program that you're excited about. Being able to develop and tell those stories in a compelling way is super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did anyone else want to jump in with one last comment about that? You all seem really engaged in this.
I asked my team, and we're a very small team, when they have interesting interactions with patrons, that they give me a quick summary in an email so that then I can forward that up to the library director and then it goes to the board. Because, libraries are not the place that most city officials are going to dump a lot of money because we're not glamorous like the police and fire. But if we can say that we know this community member who's been battling Alzheimer's has been coming to the library, we've connected that family with resources to help them through, that's great. When you get a thank you note from somebody who says, oh my God, thank you for sitting with me because I got that job that you helped me apply for. Those kinds of stories, along with the statistics, make an impact. Just the statistics are good, that's good, but the personalization is super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. This is spurring a whole list of questions. Before we jump to those, I just want to check with our amazing tech team. I know there was a second poll. Thank you. So, participants, we want you to choose the next question. So please feel free to vote. The first one is, how do I find a mentor after starting a new job? The second one is how to get ready for interviews, job talks, and library visits. How do I network with who? And then how many jobs did you apply to before getting your first professional job? So whichever one of these gets the highest percentage, all of our panelists will answer that. So your vote matters. Your vote matters. So we're watching.
And Tanya, while they're voting, I
Yeah,
didn't get a chance to answer the last question. So I just wanted
yeah.
to jump in and just say that I've found that a big leg up, especially at the library, because my whole professional career has been at the Library of Congress so far, that enthusiasm, especially in the interview, I know Richard said something similar, is really an advantage and passion and curiosity.
Mhm.
So if you're able to get that across to your interview panel when you get an interview, um, it's really valuable. And then being able to relate your past experiences, your job experiences, your volunteer, your schoolwork, anything like that, and being creative with it when you're answering, like at the Library of Congress, we have KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. Those are the questions you answer on our job applications. Being able to apply not necessarily your library experience only to those questions and just having a wide, you know, variety, a big background, a broad background to answer those questions, and is really a good way to show that you're well-rounded and that you can learn. So yeah, just wanted to add that in.
Fantastic additional content, Sarah. And it kind of leads me to something I was going to ask your opinion as someone who does career advising. One of the things that I advise my students to do when they're applying for jobs is to research the institution they're applying to and talk about specifically why they're interested to do those job duties at that library. Not at every other library, but that library. So, what are you already doing at your institution that they could be excited about? Things like that. So, do you find it helpful? You mentioned enthusiasm, Sarah. So, I was thinking of it kind of like that. Do you find that that's helpful if students, as Richard, as you said, can write well, but also talk very specifically about why they're interested in your library?
Definitely, because if you show that you're interested in that specific library, I think it also shows that you're in it for the long haul. You're
Mm-hmm.
not just interested in, I'm going to do a couple years here and then I'm going to get out. Like if you show passion and interest in that specific library system or that institution, it shows like, yes, I'm really interested in this institution and not just in this, whatever I can get out of this position.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think that's probably not something that a lot of people think of when they're applying. So I think that's really, really smart
Good.
to show
Oh,
that.
thank you. I appreciate, again, the professional feedback on that. I'm seeing some other nods too. Okay, awesome. All right, well, I am excited to say that, oh, it was neck and neck for our percentages. So we'll see if we can get to another one. I think we already started to touch on the interview stuff, so maybe we'll come back to that. But by 3%, the question that won was, how do I network and with who? Um, how do I network? With who? This is a question I think is so important for students in graduate school right now. Yes, Sarah, jump right in.
I know I'm talking a lot right now, but
No, great.
I had a really great experience in my grad school time where I took a course that I really, really enjoyed and I loved the professor. And I actually reached out to the professor towards the end of the semester and asked if I could be a TA for the following semester or the following year. And by doing that and having that experience luckily I was able to do it. That created a really great opportunity for a recommender or someone, who could write a recommendation letter or be a reference when I was applying for jobs. And interestingly enough, I actually had to reach out to the dean of my iSchool program at UMD when I was applying for the librarians in residence program.
Mm,
So that is not someone you might often interact with, but it would
yeah.
maybe be a good idea to introduce yourself at the very least.
Mhm.
So they maybe they can be a resource or someone in your network too.
That's an excellent suggestion, Sarah. Thank you. Other suggestions? How do I network? With whom?
I can go.
Yeah.
surprise, some of you are networking right now because I saw some LinkedIn requests. So networking can be happening all at any time, and it can look lots of different ways. I like to think about it kind of the same way I think about when I interact with patrons in the library, is it should not feel transactional. Some of this might be kind of relationship building, especially if kind of your goal of networking is maybe to join an institution. Yes, it's perfectly okay to reach out, almost like cold call someone and get information, but it's even better when you can build a relationship and let it go from there. So I just like to mention that. And I'll just quickly touch on the interview thing because since so many people asked, I also recommend reading over a library strategic plan in preparation for an interview so that you can tie your responses not just on your experiences, but how those experiences will directly connect to the goals that that library has said they have for the next 5, 10, 15 years. So it's a really good way to make sure you're speaking directly to their needs. So thanks.
I appreciate that really practical suggestion to how do I speak to that institution? Thank you, Christina. Who'd like
I
to go
would
next? Yeah, Jean.
I'll share that. I mean, networking goes on many different levels, and I don't know, we might be talking about mentorship later, maybe not, but um, getting a mentor is fantastic. Being a mentor is also a great way to extend your networks. I'm going to put in the chat what the New England Library Association offers its members to be a mentor or get a mentor. We need mentors throughout our career. But I would also suggest thinking about people in other professions to network with. So not just librarians, people in related fields, or like if you're in a community, who are you going to network with in that community? Maybe pay attention to the media, the social media, or who else people are connecting with and see what partnerships you might develop that way. Maybe it's a young professional society organization. There's just many different ways that you can plug in and always be listening. Christina and I know about the Harwood Institute method of community engagement, and I think that's super important. Uh, Getting involved in your association, uh, New England Library Association, your state association, national, what have you, bring it back to the library profession is also a great way. And someone was worried if they were to move somewhere, if that would be kind of like a waste of time doing that, if they were to relocate for any reason. I don't think it's a waste of time if you're actively engaged and you're learning and you're sharing what you know. People will likely be super excited to have some fresh eyes on the board or on a committee, or even just joining and taking advantage of not only the conference but things that the association offers in the in between time. So you can get to know people and also cultivate some skills. If you feel weak, like, and oh, I didn't get the last job because I didn't have budget experience, maybe you can volunteer to be on the finance committee of
Mm.
your state's association, something like that. But you're going to meet people at the same time and learn about what other library professionals, library workers are doing, and who you might connect with. You never know.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jean.
Okay, so I'll just throw in that again, it really depends on your goal, on your goals. So I think I would answer this question differently depending on what someone says they want to do in librarianship. But generally speaking, I'll say that for me personally, networking is a long-term um, journey. It's not like something that you can just do like in a flash, like in a matter of 6 months after graduating from a program. Like that hasn't been my experience anyway. I think every time I go to a conference, every time I try to speak at a conference, every time I join a committee, all those kind of like you never know where those connections and relationships will lead. And I think that the quality of those relationships that you build and the way you treat people in those moments, it will speak loudly, and over time, it will accumulate, kind of grow into a strong network. So I just want to encourage people not to think of it as Like, how many people can I meet in a short amount of time and just like check off a list or whatever and add people to LinkedIn or
Mm-hmm.
whatever?
Mm-hmm.
It's the quality and it's like the duration and again how you treat people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one other tip, if you are able and if there are positions or libraries that you're interested in working at or types of libraries that you're interested in working at around you, then you can always ask for the opportunity to do an informational interview with someone who already works at a library. But I have to warn you that I've had people do that and they don't come to impress. So that actually backfires because I know, well, okay, I know I won't hire
Mm-hmm.
that person. So
Mm-hmm.
treat it like you would in an interview setting, like
Mm-hmm.
just how you would going into an interview. Like do the research and the background thinking and prepare questions like you would in an interview for an interview, and then go and have a good conversation with the person that you're talking to. And I think that you have, if you impress them, that's a great way to not only make a good connection, but also maybe put it in their head that you're someone that they're going to keep an eye on for if a
Mm-hmm.
position opens up. So,
That was so helpful, Richard. I am all about the informational interview. So, for students who might be on this session who aren't familiar with that, because I find some of my students aren't, that's sometimes also called an informational meeting or now like a career conversation. And there's a whole etiquette around that. So, if you're like, I have no idea how to do that, I know our school has resources on that. I have a guide for students. Your school probably has that too. To me, that is one of the best ways while you're in graduate school that you can start to build your network, right? Where you're all you're asking for is that professional's expertise, their advice, their career story. And by doing that, you're also, yeah, they're in your network. And as Richard said, if you prepare well for that, that can kind of keep you on that person's radar for the future. Okay, I feel like Victoria, did you get a chance yet? Did you want to answer this question? I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone this round.
No, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I was going to mention what Richard mentioned, like just going into your local library if you're looking or interested in public libraries or whatever institution you're interested in. Most of us are really open about just having that conversation. We love to talk about what we do. Just give us a heads up. I know for me, I would really appreciate that. But I was also going to say, like your educators, they have a lot of connections that they can share with you. So don't be afraid if there's like a professor or an educator that you have really built a connection with and that you see as someone that can support you, possibly as a future mentor, but also like guide you in that direction of where you want to know, of where you want to go. Reach out to your educators. A lot of them, in my experience, have been very willing and open to support and guide and provide that guidance that one needs. Thing that everyone else has mentioned. I just wanted to highlight you have your educators too that are going to be 100% willing to help out.
I appreciate that you brought that up, Victoria, because in addition to managing our program, I'm our career services director. And I tell my students, I'm just going to say it, you not only paid for these classes, you paid for access, right? To that school's alumni network, to those professionals network. So take advantage of that. Absolutely. Okay, we have so many questions in the Q&A. So here's my thought, you guys. I need some help from the group. I'm thinking that some of you, if you feel like, oh, this is an area I really know a lot about, please feel free to go ahead and reply to any of those questions that you think you have advice to share. And then maybe also we'll look and see if we should elevate some of those to more of a discussion. I know there was one, Christina, someone wanted to know more about trauma-informed librarianship, which I think is really important. Uh, oh wow, that's super important. That's interesting. How do I get training on that? What if my school doesn't have that, right? Um, I am going to ask you guys while you're working on that, because this comes up so much, I think it's helpful to get the real world perspective on this. So we're gonna elevate the AI question, right? So that question is, how much does AI influence the hiring process in public libraries? When I apply, I find myself wondering if I need to use all the same words and phrases in the job posting. I feel like this limits what I want to say. So the bigger question is, how much is AI influencing hiring? So I would love to hear from each of you, from what you know of your library, how much is AI involved, right? Are you screening by AI? Are you organizing candidates by AI? Blah, blah, blah. And I see, Christine, you are eager to jump in on this one.
I have a real short really short answer, at my library, we are not using AI in the hiring process.
Okay.
Our technology, even though we are an information center, lags behind what is happening in the rest of the world. So we might be the weirdos out there, but AI is not informing our hiring process. And I think that's probably true for most small libraries.
Thank you, Christine. Yeah, next.
I can say that like at the library, I'm not very involved in our hiring functions. We have a whole division for that. But as far as I know, I don't think AI is involved at all. When you have the government involved, there are rules and things you have to do to even get permission to use that kind of thing. And right now at the
Mhm.
library, as far as I know, it's not used much for really
Mhm.
anything, because it is a um, government legal issue that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So as far as I know, real people look at those
Mhm.
applications.
Okay. I definitely would like if you have an answer for your library or your area to answer this because I think it gives students that live on the ground perspective. Anyone else?
In Springfield, Massachusetts, we use NeoGov or governmentjobs.com, and it's possible that at that level there's some kind of filtering going on, but I don't think so. Um, the only filtering I know that happens in our human resources is they will look to see if someone meets the minimum qualifications. Like sometimes people just go and apply for absolutely everything
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
without
Mm-hmm.
having a bachelor's or a master's or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. And it's my brain. The real
Mm-hmm.
intelligence is
Yeah,
doing the
yeah,
rest of the work.
yeah.
I can share a little bit about my knowledge of how it works here in Milwaukee. So, Milwaukee Public Library is a department of the city of Milwaukee. So, our hiring process has two phases. One is with the city of Milwaukee's human resources team. So there's initial review of applicants to ensure they're meeting minimum qualifications. They are
Mm-hmm.
placed on a list of applicants that are ranked, and then that list makes its way to the library for further review, interviews, things like that. To my knowledge, AI is not used in any of those processes. I do still think, and I believe the person who typed the question mentioned this, like it is really helpful to use words that an institution uses when they talk about what they're looking for. That stands out for me as someone, if you're really connecting with what we say our mission, vision, strategic goals are, um, that makes sense. So, in that sense, it's still useful to use those words or phrases, but maybe it's just
Mm-hmm.
not an AI that's reviewing it.
I appreciate you saying that, Christina, because I tell our students to use those words. It's not about gaming an AI system. It's because the people that are going to review your applications want to know that you paid attention to what they wrote in the job ad. They spent a lot of time on that job ad. They thought about that a lot. Maybe they even argued about it in meetings, like so that just is a sign, again, as Christina said, showing you are paying attention to what they're asking for. Um, I see a lot of people throwing questions in here. Again, feel free to answer some. And is there one here? All right, great. I see you're already answering a bunch of them. There's one here a lot about career change, either moving from a non-library setting or moving from like an academic library to a public library. Do any of you feel like you could address that? I think that's a question that's definitely worth answering live for the audience.
I'm a career changer.
Mm,
And I came from teaching and I came from teaching small children. Um, and those skills I use constantly. It's taken me a long time to be able to be articulate about which teaching skills
mm,
work in a library setting. So you may need help if you're a career changer looking at what you currently do and applying it to library land. But somebody mentioned project management earlier, time management, trauma-based, all of those soft skills that I think we often minimize are super important if you're wanting to work in a public library. And the other thing that I think that I want to be stronger in myself is being able to look at the data that the library collects and figuring out how that impacts community needs and wants. I head up the community engagement team. It's my job to know what people in our community want. So looking at what's being checked out, what's being returned, looking at who's attending which programs is really helpful. And I am not a data geek yet, but it's on my list of career goals.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Christine. I see people are typing answers. I thank you to the panelists who are doing that, who've got that experience and that perspective to share.
Tanya, I can
Yeah,
add a little bit to that question.
please. Yeah.
So I did work while I was in my graduate program, at an academic library. Of course, it was not, an academic librarian position, it was a graduate assistantship position. Um, and I also sort of switched fields a little bit within librarianship by going from preservation to cataloging, which is a really weird, big jump. And I would say, that's not exactly switching library types, but I think just showing interest and doing projects that align with where you want to be or what you're interested in is a good way to kind of get some of that experience that you can include on your resume or in your application, that kind of thing. Um, it can be hard, but I would say that a lot of the work you will do in one type of library will translate pretty well to another type of library. A lot of things will line up. It won't be exactly one to one, but a lot of the things you're going to do in one type of library, you can definitely apply to another type, I think. But if you can be, I guess, creative and figure out how to word things so that, it applies to the type of library you're trying to switch to, I think it definitely can be done.
Wonderful. Thank you so, so much. So much. Um, yeah, Christina.
Thanks. I just want to answer Bethany's question because I meant
Mhm.
to type it out, but I clicked something wrong. So Bethany had asked or said they're looking for a specific position that is currently not available. Would it be worth it to apply for another position within that library in hopes to then move positions later? So coming from like a larger library system, we have lots of different types of positions beyond youth services, adult services. There are special collections. We have digital projects, things like that. I think that is one way to get into a larger system like that, where there aren't many openings, or there's a kind of like a ranking system in the interview process where it might be challenging to start. My one thing I would say might be a consideration is for like my municipality, let's say you were hired on as a librarian, and then in 6 months, that kind of dream position opens up. If you're still on probation, you're not eligible to transfer into other positions. So it's a small thing, but it might happen. So I think just being mindful of like being okay with whatever position you enter in as, perhaps longer than what you anticipated, and being willing to kind of wait that out. So wanted to make sure I responded to that since I didn't have a chance to type it.
Thank you so much, Christina. Yeah, Bethany's giving you a heart. And thank you. Oh my gosh, I went over to the Q&A and you panelists are just like, type it away. It's you're answering all of them. So I appreciate that so much. So we got about 7 minutes left. So we're going to kind of wrap up. So I want to give the panelists and maybe the participants some say in this. Are there any questions you're answering in the Q&A panelists that you're like, oh, I think this is something that's really broadly applicable, so I want to answer it? Two, your other option as a panelist is, what's your last sort of like takeaway, your last piece of advice, right? If you could give it to these students right now. So you have that choice. You can amplify a question that's come through the Q&A. This is like choose your fighter, right? Or you can just say something that you think is a really good, just final like takeaway piece of advice that you'd like to share. Thank you, Richard. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess this is more just kind of encouragement or advice in that category. But um, I know when I started library school, I had no idea like what the world would look like, today. And
Mhm.
I'm so happy that I found my way into this profession and this field because every day you get to come to work, and despite all the horrible things that are happening in this country and this world, you feel like I think that librarians can feel like you're doing some good and serving local communities and strengthening communities and really helping individuals in those communities. And so I just want to applaud all of you for even considering working in libraries and specifically public libraries if that's where you're headed. And I would encourage you to think about your own values. And there's a values deck that you can purchase or find somewhere, and they're not that expensive. But just knowing what you value and what you believe in is really powerful. And if you align that with what our profession values, as in terms of library values and what our community values, that combination can be so powerful, and that could really be like a guiding kind of North Star for you as you progress through your career. So despite like all the different twists and turns that you might experience or all the different little things that may trip you up, if you kind of have a good sense of like who you are and what you want to do in this world and with your work life, I mean that like I said, it can take you a long way. So yep.
That was wonderful. And I'm going to say beautiful. Richard, thank you so much. Who'd like to go next? And it's optional. You don't have to do a final thing or a question. I want to say that, no pressure.
Um, I know this is really hard when you're really looking for a job, but I have had the most success personally when I was interviewing for jobs, when I looked at them as, hey, this is a fun opportunity to see what this library has to offer me. And
Mm.
not everybody is in a position to be able to be that quote unquote carefree. But I do think that that positive vibe then helped me to present myself as a very positive, enthusiastic, outgoing person, which for the roles I was applying for was very beneficial. It's not easy, and I certainly couldn't have done this 20 years ago, but
Hmm.
now that I'm an old lady, it's coming much easily.
Now that you're many years wiser, I think is what you're trying to say, Christine. Yeah, look at that. Thumbs up from Richard, hiring director. You get a gold star for that. Who'd like to, is there someone else who'd like to contribute a
I can
final thought?
mention something.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah.
I would just say that when you're applying for jobs, the worst thing they can say is no or not hear back. I would say, like, even if a position you're like, oh, I don't hit every single one of these requirements that they have on this list, so I'm not going to apply. A lot of the times, they don't expect you to hit every single requirement. They'd like you to hit some of them or at least indicate that you're able to learn or be trained, and that you have a basis to build on. So just try, even if you're like, oh, I'm just a grad student, like I feel like someone with 10 years experience is going to get this before me. You have no idea what the hiring panel is looking for,
That's right. Yeah.
So just give them a chance and they might give you a chance.
My motto is always apply anyway.
Mhm.
Apply anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know it's not easy to fill out all those forms.
Mhm.
We could talk more about that in a different panel,
Mhm.
as Tanya had suggested, but
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely apply
I do
anyway.
want, thank you. I do, as you guys are adding stuff, for those of you who are able to or have the time and capacity, totally fair. Feel free to put your contact information in the chat. for the participants, students, if someone puts their information in the chat, kind of take a page from Richard, right? Treat it as a something that very professional, research that library, research that person before you reach out. But yeah, they're offering you some gold, in my opinion, in terms of building your connections. I think, Christina, were you going to say something?
I wasn't, but I
Victoria.
but I can. Oh, wait,
Oh,
Victoria. Okay, go ahead.
Victoria.
Yeah, I think what everyone has mentioned so far is awesome. You can sell it yourself the best, and please do so. Um, I one thing that I also wanted you guys to keep in mind is as you guys are finishing up your academic career, right? Also look into opportunities for maybe entry positions into that system that you're interested in, because then you'll be able to see, is this actually the system that I want without, going full in. And also
Mm,
you're already building up your report. So by the time that you're done with school and applying for that librarian position, you already have one, an entry into the system that you're interested
mhm.
in, but also have some rapport with those that may be the ones interviewing you.
Wonderful. And I think you answered a question related to Chicago Public Library in the Q&A, Victoria. Yeah, wonderful. Any last final thoughts? We're at 12:59.
This has been such a privilege. And
Oh,
like I said before, two of my librarian heroes on the panel and some other amazing, great people getting to know here. So I'll be sending you LinkedIn requests as well. But to all the
wonderful.
students who've been here, you've been so engaged. I love it. And I love to hear from you as
Mhm.
well. Thank you, Tanya, for the
Yeah.
opportunity.
As a career advisor and a program manager, we're rooting for all of you. Like there's nothing more exciting than to see you kind of progress in your career. We've been there. We know it's like, so we want to be here. We want to support you. So you've got this. You do. You really do. And I have to say also, use the resources your iSchool provides for career support because your school probably has a lot of them. Don't be shy about reaching out to ask for help in those areas. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks so much to the panelists. Can we just do a big reaction or like I'm just gonna out loud, huge applause for them. Wonderful. This was so much fun. Yeah. Um, I will look forward to maybe some of you will rejoin us next year at the GLAM Festival. We would love that. Thank you again for your time, your wisdom, your expertise, for helping those students who were in your place at one point. I really appreciate it. I think there's a poll for participants that you can fill out. I don't know if the link will be in the chat, but I think it will go out to you when the recording is sent out. So my understanding
Yes.
is the recording will come out within 24 hours, most likely. Oh, I think I had was our one of our
Oh,
fabulous tech team members saying
yes.
something.
We'll send a kind of like the end of the meeting survey right after this, and then the video should hopefully be up in the next hour on
Wonderful.
the ESU Slim page. So
And you
YouTube.
reminded me of huge thanks to our tech team, Kevin and Habib, who got everything running and made it easy for me to just spend time with all of you. So thank you all. Wishing you a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later.
Tanya, would
Take
you
care,
like us to
everyone.
hang back for a moment, or we're okay?
If you're comfortable, if you have time, you can, but I want to respect your time as well.
I'm good.
We can stop the recording, by the way, Kevin.
Perfect.